I was on deck about to hit batting practice on the third base side of home plate, and I hear a loud bam. And I look around, and behind third base in the third base dugout, which is cinder blocked, I see a rifle.
Okay, that was Republican Congressman Mo Brooks moments after gunshots injured his colleagues during a congressional baseball practice exactly a year ago today. On that morning, Congressman Brooks took us moment by moment on New Day through the shocking scene that he was witnessing. Tonight, 1 year later, Democrats and Republicans will play their annual congressional baseball game again. Joining us now is Republican Congressman Mo Brooks. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Congressman, I don't think any of us will forget your composure that morning as you took us just moment by moment through the chaos that was unfolding around you. When you think back to that day a year ago, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm like probably everybody else who went through it. It's a little bit emotional just hearing that clip. I had a surge of emotion going through me as I revisited it in my head. Hopefully it's behind us. Hopefully it'll never happen again. This morning, we're at the Washington National Stadium, nation's capital. Beautiful day for baseball. I hope we'll have at least 10,000 show up in the stands. Last year it was 25,000, and it raised $1.8 million for local charities. So we're looking forward to a spirited game. Hopefully the Democrats will be a little bit nicer to us this year. They still have a stud pitcher, Cedric Richmond out of New Orleans, who played college ball and is still young enough to have some of his stuff. But we'll compete as best we can.
Yeah, that was not nice of them to beat you guys. But Congressman, we've talked.
No, they were very kind to us after that shooting until the ball game started. The first pitch, then they just pounded us last year.
So, Congressman, I mean, look, we've talked about, thankfully, how Steve Scalise survived, how he is recovering. But emotionally speaking, it does sound like all of you still carry a lot of scars from that day. So what is it like when you talk to your colleagues who were there with you?
Well, certainly you've got the memory of it. And as you can imagine, it was unpleasant, to put it mildly. But we've moved on. I've done my best to move on. Quite frankly, very few people ask me about it anymore. It's a year ago. It's old news. We try to move forward. Our security during practices this year has been excellent. I don't think anyone feels that we're at risk of being under another attack, at least under the circumstances where we cannot defend ourselves. So emotionally and mentally, we're ready for a good ball game, and hopefully we'll do better this year than we did last year. Last year's game, if I recall correctly, was the day after the shooting, and unfortunately the FBI had impounded a bunch of our equipment as evidence. So we weren't even with all of our gear during the game. We're ready to take it to the Democrats and do our best. And if you'll forgive me for a moment, I'm going to give a shout out. Go Grissom Tigers, wearing their uniform. It's the team I played for back in high school.
Oh, that's so great. That's wonderful. Well, look, I bet that there will be tens of thousands of people who turn out to cheer all of you on. So let's move on, you and I. Let's talk about our security. Congressman, who do you consider to be the biggest enemy of the United States?
Well, I'm going to do it a little bit different than most people in the media focus on. I think our biggest threat from a national security standpoint is our deficit and debt. That's consistent with what our current Secretary of Defense has stated, our current Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has stated. It's consistent with what Admiral Mike Mullen, as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under Barack Obama, stated. If we lose our ability to pay for our national defense, which is what happens when you go into an insolvency and bankruptcy, then that's where great nations tend to decline. If you want me to point my finger at a particular foe around the globe, I'm not sure that I could say that one is any worse than another, but certainly you have to worry about Russia, you have to worry about China, you have to worry about Iran, and you have to worry about various terrorist elements that are around the planet that would love to do damage to the United States of America if given the opportunity. Yeah. Hopefully North Korea, which has kind of been up there, particularly with the publicity. Hopefully that's diminished somewhat as a threat.
Do you think the nuclear
we'll see how President Trump does with all these different nations.
Is over? Do you agree that the nuclear threat from North Korea is now over?
Well, I'm not confident that it really was the kind of threat that it was hyped up to be. I'm confident that the North Korean leadership wants to live. And they know that if they were to attack the United States of America, we would retaliate and we would incinerate their country and they would die. And so the mutually assured destruction doctrine, which is a deterrent It's prevented a nuclear exchange between China and the United States and the Soviet Union, now Russia and the United States. And,
right.
Well, there haven't been any nuclear devices exploded since 1945.
But I mean, as you know,
that
Kim Jong-un was obviously testing
I think that works with North Korea.
I mean, but so you think that was overblown? And do you agree with the president that the nuclear threat from North Korea is now over?
Well, again, with the mutually assured destruction doctrine, I don't think it was as great as was perceived to be by people in the media. That was hyped up. Nonetheless, do I think it's 100% gone? No, we still need to worry about it. We still need to have the interceptor missiles at Fort Greely in Alaska, Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, perhaps supplement those with additional missile capabilities. To me, the greatest long-term threat of a nuclear exchange is Iran, because Iran is going to have missile capability and nuclear weapons sometime in the future, 10, 15 years, whatever the agreement with Obama permits.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, if you still have in control of that country leaders who seemingly are willing to commit suicide if they can take out the little Satan, Israel, and the great Satan, the United States, in that nuclear exchange, that's more troublesome, because I'm concerned that the mutually assured destruction doctrine does not work against people who are willing to give up their own lives in the name of their religious beliefs.
Understood. So Iran is obviously a danger. Do you think that the press is the greatest enemy of the U.S.?
Well, I'm a conservative and I'm a Republican. Certainly the news media, particularly at the national level, is a challenge for us who hold conservative beliefs.
Sure, but the greatest enemy.
Are they a threat to the national security of the United States?
Would you ever call CNN an enemy?
No. I would call CNN and most people in the media who have left-leaning bents a political foe, okay? Because they tend to be aligned with the Democrats versus the Republicans, so they're a political foe. Would I call them an enemy of our country? That's not the verbiage that I would use.
I mean, I'm just getting to, obviously, that the president tweeted out that especially NBC and CNN, just let me just say it 1 second, I won't read the whole thing, that the media and the press are our country's biggest enemy, so easily promulgated by fools. And, you know, the reason that I ask you this, Congressman, is just because I remember last year after the tragedy there on the baseball diamond, we talked about how we were all going to make an effort to come together and show more unity and build bridges. And I'm just wondering if you think that kind of language accomplishes that.
Allison, I consider you a friend, not an enemy. But when it comes to politics, and I don't know how you vote, but I would expect that you're probably a little bit more liberal than I am from the state of Alabama.
How do you know that?
And I would consider you a
matter?
foe to the conservative beliefs that I have from Alabama.
Why does it matter
but I don't consider you an enemy. I consider you a friend.
Why does it matter? Why are we enemies if we vote differently? Why do we have to assume things about each other?
Well, to me, enemy is the word that you use when you're talking about a death row kind of combat, okay?
Yeah, right.
Nazi Germany in the United States, imperialist Japan in the United States,
right. So why
fascist
does the
Italy in the United States. Those were clearly
CNN
enemies.
And about the press?
But I would use it. I would use the term more as a political foe. That's the language that I would tend to feel more comfortable with. It's like the Democrats are on the baseball field. We can be friendly outside of the confines of the House floor, and we often are, even though we vote opposite each other.
Yeah.
But clearly, we are political foes in the political arena because we have different belief systems with respect to socialism versus free enterprise, with respect to border security versus open borders.
Of course, Congressman. Everybody understands that there are differences. But I guess I'm just saying, are you comfortable with the president calling the press the biggest enemy of the U.S.?
President Trump has a way of using hyperbole in order to achieve strategic advantage, and he's got a strategy and a thought process behind the words that he used, and quite frankly, he's been fairly successful at it, so I'm not one to challenge President Trump and the hyperbole that he sometimes uses in order to achieve the goals that he's trying to achieve for our country. It might be different from my style, but obviously his style works. He's President of the United States.
Well, do you think it's damaging?
Obviously his style works. We just had a meeting with North Korea. Who would have thought it a year ago that peace talks would break out between North Korea and the United States of America? So Donald Trump has a strategy behind the terms that he uses, and it could be that he's just a whole lot smarter than I am with respect to those types of words that I don't use, but he does and we've seen at least success with respect to North Korea, the beginning of what I hope will be peace breaking out on the Korean Peninsula sometime in the future.
I understand. But do you think that it's damaging to call the free press in the United States the enemy?
I don't think he was using that term in the kind of Mortal Kombat way that some people would perceive it. But in terms of the belief system that the President of the United States has, and the unfortunately in the news media, as you know, you tend to be under a 5 or 10 minute news cycle when it used to be 24-hour news cycle. When you've got that kind of pressure to scoop your competition, unfortunately the homework that used to be done, say 30, 40 years ago before the advent of the internet was much more thorough, and the news media was much more accurate in the things that they said.
Trust me.
Now with a 5 and 10 minute or hour-long news cycle, the homework's not done and too many mistakes are made. But I'm not going to get into this
Congressman, I mean,
description
listen, I
President Trump has used.
I wish that you could be here at 4 a.m.
I'm here to play baseball today.
I understand, but I wish you could be here at 4 a.m. to watch all of the homework that we're all doing and that all of our producers who come in here at midnight are doing for hours and hours to prepare for every one of our segments. But listen, we wish you the best.
I'm sure you do that.
We do, Congressman. We are fact-based. We button up our research as much as possible. And I just wanted to ask you about all of that because I remember the high hopes that you had and so many of your colleagues, and certainly we had, that it would be a new day after the tragedy last year and that there would be some bridge building. And so I do think that it's important a year later to just see where we are with everything. But listen, we've heard your perspective. We do wish you the best of luck. Obviously, we will be watching tonight, and we're just happy that everybody
Allison,
will be back healthy. Yes.
Allison, it will be a new day if the Republicans beat the Democrats in the congressional baseball game tonight. How about that?
Great. And we will look forward to you recording a promo for New Day on that topic. Congressman, thanks so much.
Thank you, Allison. Good to be able to speak with you again.
You too.